No, not 2002, 2005 or 2006. There were the communal riots in Savordem, Churcorem, and for the first time, so there was like a flash thing of people, sending messages to each other. We need to do something, and irrespective of where we stood on the whole political spectrum, for that matter, at that point of time, if you go to see, there were a lot of people who were sympathizing. I mean, a lot of activists also sympathizing with what was called a Swadeshi Jagaran Abhiyan, etc., etc. Which one knows were the forerunners of the forerunners of the BJP, and these are like front organizations, right? So we had local sympathizers. I mean, they are prominent activists. I won't name them, but let's put it this way. So, but over this, everyone was clear, because this was like, those are subtle forms of indoctrination and infiltration by the fascist forces. But this one was like, brazen, where Muslim women were forced to run into the forests and things like that, because, they came under attack. And they came under attack from people who were incited, which included a few Catholics as well, Hindus and a few Catholics. I won't say it's their religion, but I'm saying in terms of, as a community being incited. And it's also, there is a certain resentment against Muslims in Goa, because, which is around 9/11 and all these, that kind of hype. And you also have a certain kind of resentment because there is a migration of Muslims into Goa, which Muslims still constitute a very small minority in Goa. But given the still smaller minority that they were, when there is this addition, and there you see people with like skull caps, etc., which was not there before, their presence is visible, and it's not so receptive, meaning given the other hype and everything, and it becomes easy to kind of churn feelings against Muslims in Goa at this point of time. So there was this massive, like it was like the fire was raging, and it was like those twin towns, and it was going to spread. So that in that sense, there was this rapid action across political understandings, affiliations, etc. In fact, there were issues at that time also around script, language, official language, script, and many things. So people even came to loggerheads at that meeting, because there were these issues which also had communal dimensions. But I think what was the common ground then was that whatever it is, you got to stop this fire. So you have your opinions, I have my opinions, we got to stop. So there was like this, what shall we say, like a whole discussion, and then finally, Ramesh Gauss and myself were asked to kind of coordinate, and we felt that you have women's groups, you have children's groups, you have, by then I think, yes, there were children's rights groups as well, and then there were trade unions were there, environmental groups were there, but that you needed a specific organization to kind of, not only to act at that moment first to deal with the crisis, but to go beyond that in terms of education, just like you have political education at other levels. And so that's how Citizens Initiatives for Communal Harmony was formed. And so that's around the time I moved out of Bailanzo South and was with Citizens Initiatives for Communal Harmony. And from there on, one has, there is this tendency sometimes, I think, to be simplistic and just mark it as RSS, BJP, but one has to realize there's a range of forces, and not all of them may come literally also, meaning forget about being front or whatever, but in any way, they may not even be front organizations of RSS necessarily. But it's a certain ethic that has been internalized by many people today. So it's they may come in the shape sometimes of even the ruling Congress party or then ruling Congress party, or they may come in the shape of activists, because it's the ethic has been so slowly entrenched that it kind of caught a lot of people unawares, and we didn't realize. So that was something we realized as we were going along, because we could see the kind of prejudices there were even within activist circles, and that we need to understand and expose some of these things. For instance, like we soon realized that the Muslims are not allowed to have a Qabristan in Margao. Okay, now just because they are Muslims, and they had one which is like a rocky place, and they had to unearth. There's like a period of time after which they normally should unearth, but they had to unearth even as the body was not totally decomposed, because there was no place. Plus it was a rocky place, plus it was at a height, and there were lots of issues. So everyone was resisting land being given for the Qabristan. Leave alone land being given. Even if they bought land, they wouldn't want the Qabristan anywhere. So there were so at that level we got involved in a lot of these issues. We also got involved in demanding an inquiry about Kurchore Savordem. We asked for a judicial inquiry, and then and ultimately what turned out was there was a one-man inquiry. But still, again, we had to work on issues like, getting people to come and depose, because, you can't have it in the heartland of where the problem was and expect people to come, especially when they've been traumatized. So we had to work around a lot of these issues in that whole process of the hearing that the one-man inquiry held. It was a collector of North Goa asked to do this inquiry in South, in this place which was located in the south. So it involved a lot of that kind of work, and the report did highlight a whole thing about the kind of whisper campaigns that there were. It brought out certain modalities. The government did not, there was a Congress government then, the government did not adopt the report, or at least did not make an open statement about the report, because it's not that if they have an inquiry, it means that they have accepted the report, right? So they didn't adopt the report, and eventually that government fell, and the BJP came to power, whatever. But all said and done, so then we began looking at, they were having these exhibitions. We went and saw some of these exhibitions in schools. They were having these exhibitions where, like the teacher would take these little kids around in class and say, look, those Muslim men, they killed this, they harassed or tortured this little kid, Hindu kid. So, and these picture poster exhibitions kind of thing. So at a young age, you're kind of instilling hatred. And we felt that, so we began by raising questions about these things happening in sites where education, at sites of education or in government institutions. We began by raising these kinds of issues, because we were trying to steer clear from this whole thing of getting muddled up in censorship, because at the same time we say, okay, that if that exhibition happens, then we need to also respond to it and say, this is the problem with this exhibition, and challenge it on those terms. So we had some of these discussions and dilemmas also, but we kept raising this every time whenever we came across these things. So we've also tried to have talks, like we had Tista coming here and giving us because at that time we said, see, most people began saying, because you need to, that's something I would like to say as an activist from Goa, that very often when people talk about issues, they frame it within a so-called national narrative that seems to exclude the local experiences. And that is definitely a challenge, because there is definitely the challenge of trying to see how various narratives can form part of this, national narrative, if at all there can be a national narrative.